Yesterday, someone asked me, she was like, what is a hill you're willing to die on? And I'm like, I'm not Native American. I don't know what it means.
You should have answered with like, I don't know any hills in Florida that I would like that much.
I prefer not to die on any hills.
I like the Hollywood hills.
The Hollywood Hills. Man, I feel like I really miss a lot of moments because I don't understand like American sayings.
What are Russian sayings that we would be like? Like if you were to tell me something.
I wouldn't know. I don't really like fully immersed in any culture.
Oh, I see what you mean.
You know what I mean? So I don't know. I'm not in the know. It sucks. We can be the masterminds of the next like wave of sayings. Because if I just start saying them, it's gonna like people will pick it up and then slowly it's like a chain reaction.
Not only that, you say it with enough confidence that people are like, yeah, this.
That's because that's my gift. Okay. Gary came in and said that he's not going to ruin my flow, but he ruined my flow. But you know what? He doesn't understand that when girls sit down and talk, we talk about all the things that are just like brewing inside. He doesn't get it. This is what men don't get. This is why we're able to move in the world so much lighter, because we like just let it all out and then we move on. Men, they carry the weight. I don't want to freaking carry the weight, but that's not the point. Today we're sitting down for a solo episode, and this one is actually, I think, my first Q&A one. So I really wanted to start talking to you and with you and have this like double, sword. What? I have to say English has been a little bit difficult for me in the past week, but to have this to have a dialogue, thank you, two-sided conversation, to have a dialogue and answer any of the burning questions. So I posted on Instagram a little question box and I just told you, just go for it. Whatever it is that you're curious about, let me know. So I'm going to get right into it. And we're going to start with the nose job. I knew this is coming up. As you guys know, or maybe don't know, but I just got my revision rhinoplasty. So just to give you a bit of context, I had my nose done for aesthetic reasons at the age of 16. And there's a little bit of controversy when it comes to me getting it done so young. But my mother really saw such a huge insecurity in me with my original nose. And as a mother, especially a Russian mother does, she's like, okay, how do we solve this problem? Let's go get a nose job. And by the way, it wasn't so like, oh, let's go. We weren't wealthy. It's not like it was, a sum of money that wasn't meaningful, but she really wanted to help me. And I'm so grateful for that. So I got my nose done. I think she's paid that surgery for like 2 years. And it felt like to me, it's something that I stopped talking about and I was able to concentrate on other things, because truly, unless you have something that really, really bothers you, like to a point where you can't look at yourself or take pictures or anything like that, until you have that in your life and see how much energy and capacity it takes, especially during the years where you are just developing your identity, you won't understand. So she took me, I got the nose done, felt great. It really helped my modeling career because again, I was able to like show up, to feel more confident. I adopted that nose and went along. Back then, which was, I'm not going to do the math because it's going to be very hard, but back then when I was 16, there was definitely a specific look for the rhinoplasty the doctors used to do. So when you see now people in the wild, I know I do. When I see people in the wild in the world, I'm able to recognize what year their nose job is from. So if you are from like the early 2000s, you see that it's this really like doll-like, small, tiny nose, very much a look of an operated rhinoplasty. And that's what I had. I think when I hit maybe like 28, 29, I started feeling like something is aesthetically, something just doesn't make sense to me anymore. I feel like that nose was just losing its, I don't know, I couldn't connect to it. It was really weird. And then of course in the last year, which really what pushed me to go and get a revision was when I started lifting weights, I realized that I don't have enough oxygen in my body. I would have to take so many breaks throughout my workout and I couldn't breathe. It was very difficult. So first I went to a normal doctor, like a nose, mouth, throat, what is it called? They told me go see a plastic surgeon because you have a deviated septum. Also, I started noticing that my nose is collapsing. So the shape has been changing. I started seeing more like kind of holes in it. So I went to see a doctor, plastic surgeon that specializes in revisions, and he showed me how the inside of my nose looks like. So if you can imagine, a deviated septum is already obviously a challenge for those who need to breathe. So I have the deviated septum on one side to the left, and then my nose is collapsing on both sides. So what it did is that it made it even more difficult for me to breathe. So it was, to me, a no-brainer. I was like, let's do the surgery. I would love to like know what it's like to actually have a full access to oxygen. And I don't even know the long terms for the brain and for the body and everything when you're not getting enough oxygen. So that was obviously the first reason why I wanted to do it. The second one was that my nose started to look so botched because I feel like now people are coming out and saying, listen, it's been looking botched for a while, which I realized. But when I went and took pictures at the plastic surgeon office, I realized that it looks so botched, and I just didn't want that look anymore. I wanted something that has and feels more authentic to me. So I asked him if we can kind of have more of a longer nose, because it was kind of chopped to the side and very much going up. So we added basically a cartilage to it. The surgery was great. Honestly, I was obviously very worried, but something about me as well is that when I make a decision, I make a decision. So I did not go back and forth, unlike my mother, who called me 3 times a day from the day that I went to see the surgeon until my surgery date. Are you sure about this? Do you want to do it? Do you not want to do it? And I'm like, Mom, decision has been made. I am going. This is my present for myself, for the 30-year-old something self, that it needs to happen. Surprisingly, I didn't go to see any other doctor. I saw one doctor, and that's the doctor that I went with. Again, intuitively knew that this is the right decision. It was just, I don't know, when you just meet somebody and you're like, I trust them. So that was kind of the feeling with my doctor that I decided to go with. And yeah, the day of the surgery arrived, I was ready to go. I didn't do general anesthesia, which I feel like a lot of people are freaking out whenever I tell them. It was local, so they only put my kind of the nose area to sleep. Otherwise, I was like awake, talking, like had full-blown conversation, got to know the doctor better, the nurse that was there. It was kind of crazy, but also was so much better for my character, like I love to feel like I'm in control, that I know what's going on, being awake and seeing kind of the process. Mind you, the process was, I think, 4 or 5 hours, so it was a pretty long time, but you don't feel it. You don't really feel the time when you're under the knife. So I was like, oh, show me the cartilage, show me this, show me that. He really was kind of taking me through step by step, and done. To my surprise, the recovery process was absolutely amazing. I had no scars, I had no like marks, nothing like that. I wore the cast for a week, and that's it. When I took it off, that's when I think something hit me, something that I didn't expect. I literally couldn't recognize myself. It was such a huge adjustment for me, and only now, it's been now 3+ weeks, only now I'm like, oh, okay, the swelling's going down. I can see me, and I'm getting used to this. The first like week after removing the cast, I was going through it. And I think that not a lot of people talk about, the identity crisis that happens when you change something on your face. So that was a little rough. I was like, okay, I full on have a face dysmorphia. But the great thing is that it didn't come with regret, because again, looking back to how it used to look, like that's not me anymore. Now that's on the aesthetic side. Something really crazy happened though on the kind of emotional side of all of it. I felt like it was truly, first of all, something that I really needed to do, because it reminded me the young Valeria. It's the weirdest thing. Like my nose, even when it was, especially when it was swollen, it really looked like the young photos of myself, like from my bat mitzvah when I was 12. And also I looked way more like Jake, right? So Jake has my original nose. So that was kind of interesting to see. And with it came a feeling of kind of a familiarity and appreciation. And I don't know, I feel like I closed a circle, if that makes sense. It's been 3 weeks and I took off my cast, and now the swelling is going down, and I'm feeling good. I'm feeling happy. I'm so happy I made that decision. And you guys, the breathing, are you serious? Like when I sat down in the car after the surgery and I was able to take like the first real breath, I looked at Gary and I was like, is this how you been living? Like the ability to breathe is very underrated. Also, I've seen such a difference in terms of my energy levels. I used to get so tired by like 6, 7 p.m. And now I just feel like I get a second wind. Like my body feels way more energized. Also, I am still learning how to breathe properly because I'm not used to the amount of oxygen that I'm getting now. So in the gym, I just started working out the past week. I would kind of get to a point where my head spins a little bit because there's so much oxygen. Like I need to pace myself. So this is where it's at with my nose. It's been an interesting journey for sure. And I'm so happy I made a decision and made it happen. Very grateful that my body was able to recover and take care of itself. I shared on my Instagram how I went on kind of a mini protocol pre-surgery, and I wish more doctors would talk about it. Anybody who's going in for surgery, you need to sit down and tell ChatGPT what you're getting done, your age, your everything, and tell them, him, her, whatever you want. Tell it to give you a recommendation of what to focus on in terms of nutrition, in terms of supplements. So for me, I was very much focusing on antioxidants, vitamin C, bromelain, which helps with scarring and recovery, just amazing. So I truly feel like that helped. Another thing that I've done was doing the oxygen chamber, which was a game changer because again, it gives your body an amazing amount of oxygen. So it helped to regenerate itself faster and just heal faster. So that's great pre-operation and post-operation. So there's a lot of things that you can do that can actually support your recovery, and ChatGPT has it for you. So I'm just putting it out there. Whatever you're going through, you sit down and you share with ChatGPT and ask for their advice. There was another question that was interesting. I don't know if it relates to the nose job or I think it's kind of an overall one. Puria. Why do I feel like I have to eat my body weight in protein to get enough? It's ridiculous. There seriously aren't enough meals and honestly time in the day for me to get the amount that I'm actually supposed to eat. I'm sure I'm not the only one who's struggling with this, but because of that, I supplement with protein powders. And of course, the next challenge that I faced is learning that not all powders are made equal. Shocker. The Clean Label Project did a study reviewing over 150 top-selling protein powders, and they found that 47% of them exceeded safety limits for lead and 21% containing double the acceptable amount. Okay, you guys, 47% of the protein powders that we use exceeded safety limits for lead. That's why I am so relieved to share that I found Puri and their PW1 whey protein powder. So the reason why I am obsessed and an advocate for this brand is because the entire brand is built around the ideas of testing and transparency. So each batch is third-party tested by the Clean Label Project against more than 200 harmful contaminants, including lead and cadmium. With every product, you can scan a QR code on the product and you see exact batch's third-party test result, which is amazing. So this is an incredible standard that is almost impossible to find elsewhere in this industry. Hopefully will become a mainstream one day. My personal favorite is the dark chocolate flavor, perfect in a smoothie or in a shake, however you like to have your protein powder. Some people put it in Greek yogurt. Listen, whatever works, as long as it's clean and actually doing its job, you know? So do what I did, add Purees please PW1 to your routine now. I do have an exciting deal for you if you want to take advantage. Right now, you get 20% off, or if you choose their already discounted subscription, you get almost a third off the price. So visit my exclusive URL, puri.com/Valeria, and use my promo code Valeria. That's PUORI.com/Valeria. That discount code is only available when you visit my exclusive URL and use my promo code, so don't wait. Do you find yourself operating in a victim mindset? How honest are you about this with yourself? So it's interesting because before I sat down, Gary came out and he was like, oh, you're doing a solo. That's so interesting. Can I share something with you? I was like, what? He knows not to throw me off before my solo, but he felt like he needed to share it with me. He's like, I've noticed that in all your solos, you talk a lot about kind of the issues and the problems. And he was reading the titles of all, the episodes, and it looks kind of like despair. I was like, okay, fair. So I feel like it relates to this question. Maybe it's packaged a little bit as despair, but it's absolutely not. I am not. And I don't remember ever being in a victim mentality because I didn't grow up like that. I grew up seeing my mother just always winning, even when it was very difficult and very shitty situations. I never seen victim mentality around me. No, that's not true. You see, I'm catching myself. I seen victim mentality with the men in my mom's life, but not my mom. My mom was never a victim, and that was obviously the biggest influence on me. So it was never something that I could relate to. And it actually annoys me about people, I have to say. I know that I shared in my previous solo that something that I'm working on is the judgment aspect of myself, where I judge others and I judge myself. But the victim mentality is something that jumps at me from the get-go with people that I meet, because I think that it just reminds me of everything that I don't like. I am a big advocate for self-awareness, for accountability, and for knowing that you always have a choice. Maybe it's not always the best type of choices, but you have choice. So I think that it is very important to remember that. And we obviously, not all of us getting amazing cards dealt to us, but it's really all about mindset and how you see the world. So to answer the question, no, I don't operate in a victim mindset. I just think it's a waste of time and it doesn't really get me anywhere. That's a no for me. Another question was, how did you deal with being unpopular? That's funny because I read that question and I'm like, I was not unpopular. I wasn't unpopular. I'm thinking this probably relates to school setting. I was never unpopular. I was just kind of invisible, if that makes sense. But that was the result of just me being insecure. So I kind of always knew that it's on me because I saw other people, and even as an adult, even in modeling, right? I saw so many people showing up and being loud and allowing themselves to be seen. And so I knew that there are ways to put yourself out there. I just didn't have the tools or the muscles trained yet to do that. So I was just always kind of like in the sidelines, didn't want anyone to pay attention to me because just don't like the attention, which is hilarious because look at what I'm doing for a living. Yeah, that was kind of my experience with this whole like popular and unpopular. And I'm thinking back now to my high school and just like school days. I always felt very validated by people that noticed me without me like being loud and proud. So that always made me feel better. And in a way, I was searching for that. It's like I was searching for people to pay attention to me by being like, oh, look how humble she is. You know what I mean? So that was a very interesting way of doing things. It took me a long time to kind of break through it, which I feel like I'm very close to it. Or maybe I'm already there. I don't know. I mean, I'm showing up. So I feel like social media has really helped me to break through those debilitating, kind of beliefs that I don't want to get the attention and I'm not worthy of any attention. So it's been really nice. The next question is how to cope with stress. That's interesting. So I'm going to be honest with you. I don't freaking know how to deal with stress. The thing that I've done that helped me a lot is to reframe the idea of stress. I think that right now we put so much, because it's an industry of its own, we put so much negative connotation to stress and anxiety. But in reality, it's the way our bodies communicate with us what it needs. So coping with stress is also kind of making peace with it and being grateful for the ability to understand your body and to listen to it. So when I feel stressed, first of all, sometimes it's very motivating to me and it actually gets me off my butt and I get shit done. So that's something that's also helpful. I think a little bit of stress is important. You don't want to be chilling and relaxing all the time. So that's number one. And then when it becomes the kind of stress that actually harms you, I make sure to take a step back. And I, first of all, look at the things that are in front of me. And the one thing that I've learned that became such a powerful tool for me, especially as a woman, is asking for help. Hello, we need to do more of that. So I look at what is on my plate and I see who can help me take some stuff off my plate. And I no longer champion this idea of like, I can do it all, because I think it's complete nonsense and we're self-sabotaging. So I'm not about that life anymore. I'm looking around and I'm like, okay, who I can ask for help? Who is someone that can step up for me, show up for me and like pick some stuff up. And then I take some time, and not a lot of time. Time is, it's very specific for each person, but it can be an hour, it can be half a day, it can be a full day. And I just dedicate it to things that I like to do, even if it's like a workout or if it's starting the day, like having a slower morning. Whatever it is that I can do for myself is really helpful, just to kind of remind me, well, not even remind me, but to snap me out of it. Because sometimes when you're just sitting with that stress and like thinking about the stress, you're getting deeper and deeper in that black hole. So just something that can like pull me out of there and be like, oh, okay, I can, like, let's take care of this right now. So that is personally something that I do. But again, I think that a huge mind shift happened to me when I stopped looking at these things as purely like negative, feelings, emotions, and look at it as an opportunity to really get motivated and do the things that I need to do. Also, it's a signal for me, and I mentioned it before. Anxiety, it's a signal for me that I haven't been also showing up the way I know I should show up. You know what I mean? If it's with my habits, if it's with my workouts, if it's with whatever, meditations, time off, like all these things. Again, this is your body tells you that you've been slacking. So say thank you and take action. Okay, next question. When there's no motivation, how can you handle with so many things? Okay, so motivation is another, I'm just going to be bursting bubbles over here. Motivation is another thing that is getting, like, we're over indexing on motivation, because motivation is so fleeting. It comes, it goes, and you can't rely on it. I always say, and I've been saying it for years, and I'm happy to see a lot of other people talking about it right now, discipline trumps motivation every single time. To me, I really make sure that I build the muscle of discipline in order to push me through the times when the motivation doesn't exist. And it's very cyclical with motivation. Motivation comes and goes. You can be inspired by people. You can be inspired by something you watched or you saw. So it's also important for you to look for inspiration and have time for inspiration, because that is the fuel to motivation. But at the end of the day, it's the execution and the discipline that keeps on feeding motivation back into you. Because think about it. You have the discipline, right? You need to, start writing a book. You show up, you start writing. It's the act of doing it, right? And as you start doing it, motivation starts popping up because you start getting inspired, right? And it's pushes you even further into the project. Then the motivation goes away and you have kind of a block and you're going through it. But again, you keep showing up. I think that when you show up, motivation shows up. That's kind of where it's at. And it doesn't always show up, but that is where discipline comes into play. So I wouldn't think too much about that. I would really look at what you need to do in order to build discipline. This is a great question. Before social media, did you ever struggle with visibility? And if so, how did you overcome it? Absolutely. Actually, social media is and was my solution for visibility because I was so scared of what people would think about me, will say about me, feel about me, what if they don't like me, what if they judge me, like all these things. And I knew that at that point in my life, which was, I was 26 years old with 2 children, I don't want to continue living in this cave of my own, right? Because it's, at the end of the day, I used to be like, oh, I don't want to do this, for all these different reasons. But I knew that the reason is because I was just scared of any judgment from the outside. So for me, social media was such a beautiful test to, again, develop the muscle of showing up and learning about myself through it because I knew I had to break through it. I identify social media as a tool to get through it, but anything else, honestly, like improv, things that you really puts you out of your comfort zone. Because what happens when you start doing that is that you realize that, first of all, no one thinks about you at all, by the way. A rude awakening for all of us. No one cares. Everyone is so busy thinking about their own lives and survival that no one cares about what you're doing, what you're saying. If people do, they think about it for 10 seconds and we move on. But you also realize and learn about your own unique abilities, strengths, weaknesses. Like you're really able to become way more aware of yourself. And I think that's where it starts building up, that confidence, and not only confidence, but also you're just learning about yourself, like your own identity. You start crafting it. And I think a lot of us don't realize how many of us don't have an understanding of who we are, even when we reach our 20s and our 30s, and some of us 40s, 50s, like some are late bloomers, some never do. I don't know. Taking these steps of putting yourself out of your comfort zone and really like looking objectively at the situation, and even with this crippling anxious feeling, you go through it. Oh my God. First of all, you learn to appreciate yourself. You learn to value yourself, because when you do hard things, it just makes you love and appreciate yourself even more. So that's how I kind of thought of it. I was like, I'm 26 years old, like enough is enough. I don't want to wake up in 10 years being like, oh, I didn't do all these different things because I was too scared of, people seeing me. Like, what is this bullshit? I'm here one time. This is like, in this body, I'm here today. So I'm either enjoying the ride or I'm just sitting and making a bajillion excuses. So this is how I rationalized back then to myself. Also having 2 small kids, when you become a mother, you really think about it. You're like, is this the example I want to give my children? Like, they're watching me. And that's not something you can preach. You have to model it. You have to do it in order to show them that it's possible. So that was a big, big thing for me. But before social media, I was doing it kind of half-assed with modeling, right? Because the job required me to be in photo shoots and to get interviewed or things like that. But I was just like, even looking at my earlier modeling gigs, and I even sometimes have like flashbacks to certain situations, and I was just playing small. I was just such a little gray mouse. I would get the job and I would just show up. I would get my pictures done and leave. I was just so insecure and wasn't able to really translate my personality and the rest of me into that situation because of the amount of missed opportunities and epic things that I could have done. At 26, I kind of like, okay, I had enough. Like, this cannot be the life that I'm going to live. So that was that. What would you say to your 20-year-old self? Nothing. She needed to go through whatever she needed to go through. I would give her a hug. I would be like, you're going to be A-okay, but like, go and figure it out. You're doing great, sweetie. Would love to know your fears. Oh my God. Well, Gary would argue that my fears are showing up in every solo podcast that I do. But I think one of the first solo episodes that I've done when I started Not Alone, I was talking about the fear of staying the same. And I would say that's my greatest fear, of truly being the same person and thinking the same thoughts and just believing the same things. I think values and morals don't change really, but everything else should be fluid because you are, at least me, I'm exposed to new people, to new situations, to new experiences, to new environments. Like if I'm set in my ways, that's not how I want to live. I feel like you're missing out on so much when you live like that. I would say that that is a great fear. How to know what you want, decide, be in this effing life, and how to take action. So I don't think there's like a day that happens where it kind of hits you. I think that to know what you want, to be able to decide on it and then act on it is a project that takes years, right? Years. And you have to remember that, and you have to give grace to yourself, and you need to know that every experience, every decision, or a decision you take or don't take, leads you to a better understanding of yourself. At the end of the day, it's coming, but you gotta walk. You gotta do the things, and there's not specific things that you need to do. It's, again, the self-awareness is huge. Putting yourself in uncomfortable situations and something that stretches you and feels uncomfortable is extremely important. I think hardships and failures and all these things that I feel like we're trying to escape in this human experience, is there for a reason, because we are learning about who we are and what muscles to build and what we can flex and how we flex it and all these things. So you'll know, like it's a feeling when you feel like, okay, now I need to do enough with the thinking, enough, because it's a process, right? There's a process. Like I'll give you a great example, because I was just talking about it the other day, where for me this year feels like the year of all or nothing. Like I can't explain it. There's this sense of urgency that's showing up for me that I've never felt before. And it's very interesting because, again, I've never felt it before. I always kind of like, la-di-da, we have time. But just something hit me this year. But it started 4 years ago. It started with a little seed of thought of just like, and that's about like business and family, like all things, right? Just the way I show up in the world. It started there. And then that was a whole year of just like planting that seed and thinking about it. The next year was bringing more awareness to it, right? It was understanding how it looks and what does it mean when I'm in different situation, identifying of like, oh, I'm not doing everything that I can do in that situation, or I'm not speaking my truth, or I'm not, whatever it is for you. And another year was me observing other people. How does that look like? So the people that are doing or are acting or living the life that I deem successful, like how do they act and move in the world? So for me, again, I need to observe, I need to see in order to believe. And then there's the year of action. So to me, I'm in the year of action, but it took like 4 or 5 years to get here. And that's something that we all need to remember. I think there is this level of audacity we all have as humans, thinking that, oh, we're thinking something and we want to change it. Snap of a finger and here we are. No, there's nothing you can do. There's no lemon water you can drink. There's no supplement you can take. Nothing to rush the process of awareness, observation, and action. Okay, let's move on to the next one. Who would you be if not an influencer or public figure? That's a good question. I don't know. I really don't know. Before I started social media, I was studying holistic nutrition and I thought that I'm going to be doing things in like the wellness space. And then I started working with people and I'm like, oh, I don't like people. Like I don't like to do the one-on-one. It didn't really fit my communication style and what I wanted for myself. I, at some point, for a hot minute, thought about going to like business school. I always felt like I knew I was smart. I always felt like I'm smart, but I just didn't know where to, like, where I can put that, where can I insert it and make something out of it. So there was a lot of different things. I wanted to be like a clothing designer, which we tried. It didn't work. Good to know. But I didn't really know. It was all over the place. But I was also in my 20s. So you're not supposed to know. But I'm happy we're here. Okay, next question. Could you give 30 pieces of advice to people who are turning 30 this year? Oh my God, 30? No, I cannot give 30. I feel like a lot of the answers that I gave have the pieces of advice I would give someone that's turning 30 this year. One thing I want to say about 30, I was under the impression that once you're out of your 20s, 30s is like, you know who you are, you like, that's it. You figure things out. And that is a lie. 30s is still an interesting decade to navigate because, yes, you have a way better understanding of yourself and the world, but you're still learning how to actually maneuver it, how to do things the way you want them to be done, and when to know that you're operating from a place of like other people's opinions of you. Like, there's a lot going on in your 30s as well. So I don't want anyone thinking that I hit my 30s and like that's it. I know who I am. I know what I'm doing, where I'm going. You have a little bit more clarity. But babe, the road is still like long, and that is such a blessing. I actually heard, and I spoke about it with a few people that are also experts in the hormonal and kind of women's health space. But I read somewhere that a woman changes every like 7 to 10 years. Hormonally, that's actually correct. So you are going to morph into a different version of yourself every 7 years. And that's just something you want to think about and know. I think for a lot of us, it's kind of, I don't know, for me, it's comforting, it's exciting, it's fun. Also had to sit down with Gary and be like, hey, just so you know, the woman that I am today, I can't promise she's going to be the same in like 5 years, but that's part of it. And I think that's such a beautiful gift that we have as women, to be able to really discover all these like versions and angles of ourselves and about ourselves. So I think that the biggest advice is just don't think that any age is kind of a finish line and it's smooth sailing from there. No, every year, every decade brings something special about it. And all you need to do is feel the confidence in yourself to figure things out and give yourself grace when you haven't figured something out, because it takes time. We're talking about the long game here, okay? Let's go to the next one. How to find yourself in inspiring surroundings and people that make you better. I mean, I think that your energy attracts whatever it puts out there. So in order to meet inspiring people and to befriend inspiring people, you also have to be an inspiring person. It's the same thing with a partner. You can't look for somebody that hit all the boxes, that checks all the boxes, if you don't check those boxes yourself. So it's the same thing with friendships. At the end of the day, I think it's important to remember that with people, this is a value exchange. It's very important for successful people, for interesting people, to be surrounded by that same energy so they can get inspired. Otherwise, they're just, you drain people. So it's such a fun project to, again, all roads lead back to learning who you are. And it's such a fun project to learn what you're interested in. Is it art? Is it music? Is it whatever it is? And kind of really start there. Start to go to different groups or clubs or read about things, just really immerse yourself in things that are interesting to you and be curious, because that is the most amazing gift, curiosity. And you'll see that, first of all, your energy shifts, but then you're also attracting similar type of people. And being open-minded and curious is obviously extremely important. And I think you can only get to that when you are putting yourself out there and being curious about yourself and the world. So that is my kind of biggest advice when it comes to surrounding yourself with people. Think about what value can you bring. The next question is balancing work, mom life, and trying to be fashionable. This is something that I think we all battle as women. The idea of balance is very funny to me because it's never really balanced. It's kind of like a seesaw, and you have to tip it to different areas based on what is needed from you in that point of life. For me, I very much acknowledge the fact that sometimes I have periods where I'm so fully immersed with work that my family life suffers. But then I know that this next month, when work is a little lighter, this is where I'm going to shift a lot of my energy into my kids and my husband and my family, and less about work. You know, it's this dance. It's this dance of balance, I would call it. So with being fashionable, I think that I keep saying I think. I don't think I know. I'm saying it from a place of knowing, okay? I need to get this I think out of my vocabulary. Being fashionable is a matter of being comfortable in your body, but also know what works for it. It took me a while, especially as I'm getting older. I'm really understanding, what I'm comfortable with. Like, I haven't been wearing like super tight clothes for a long time. I don't like when my butt is like, it's tight dresses. I don't like those things. So I haven't been wearing silhouettes like that. So learning what you feel comfortable in, because when you're comfortable, you're able to be confident and you're able to focus on things like conversation and how you walk and your posture and all these things, rather than moving things and like trying to adjust your dress. So that's number one. And then really investing in learn your colors and learn your silhouettes. That's so important. There's so much information out there these days, and amazing people that diverse people that have different body types that you can follow to see how they dress. And to me, it's like anything else, requires some effort and some adjustment period and learning. So to me, that's that. And then once you learn your silhouettes, your colors, what you feel comfortable in, then you just put together your capsule collection. You don't throw yourself into every trend. You don't try to dress like your 20-year-old self, unless you're 20, because then dress like you're 20. And that's it. And then it's really that simple. I think, getting inspiration from people is a beautiful thing. That's a huge gift that social media gave us. Go on Pinterest, do a little board. One of the best tips that I've heard recently was from a stylist, and she mentioned how, when you have an idea of like the style that you want for yourself, a great thing to do is go on Pinterest and build a board of like celebrities that you love their style, you love their essence, and you start kind of saving the images and things that you like. And when you sit down and you have like a full board, you're able to kind of see what direction you're leaning towards, right? If it's boho, if it's more quiet luxury, if it's certain colors, maybe you are really attracted to like simple clothes but big accessories. Like, pay attention. And by the way, you can do that not only with fashion photos, but also with decor, right? With aesthetic, anything like that. It will start giving you an idea of like, oh, this feels like very feminine, very airy, or this feels very like bossy, strong, powerful shapes, the Saint Laurent, let's say, like the big shoulder blazers. That really gives you an understanding of the direction you want to start look into. And then from there, you start learning about what you like and experimenting with silhouettes and seeing what works for you. It's a DIY project. And you can get the help of, image consultant, or like learning your colors. That's something that I've done with a good friend of mine who's amazing, Julia. She gave me kind of a booklet of all my colors after she did a color analysis on me. And I was so pleasantly surprised, because a lot of the colors are colors that I'm already intuitively lean towards. But because I spend a lot of time with clothes and I pay attention, so that was really helpful. But I know so many people that did that and it helped them immensely. So invest in yourself, because the way you look matters. Be whatever you want to be. You can be whatever you want to be, but aesthetics is important. You want to look good. You want to feel good and look good. It goes hand in hand. So I always tell people, like, don't neglect yourself no matter what phase you are in your life. Waking up and looking good makes you feel good. And that's sometimes an amazing source of motivation. So extremely important part of the full picture. Getting over the need for validation and comparison, especially coming from a Soviet background. Ooh, girl, we're digging up trauma over here. Listen, I gotta tell you, we're just luckier. We lucky to live at a time and blessed to live at a time, and some of us in countries and places and leading a lifestyle that allows us to step back and look at all the traumas and all the things that we picked up from our upbringing and childhood and all the things. Because our parents, they were just in a constant survival mode. There was no time to unlearn, relearn, break certain generational kind of habits that didn't serve us. They didn't have time. We are already so ahead of them. And I just want to take a minute to just say thank you for all the decisions that they made to bring us here and to give us a better future. And that's where it starts. It's really understanding their struggles and realizing that we are not in that environment anymore. And we don't need to repeat the patterns because our life doesn't require that. So again, it's a little seed, and then you become aware of it, and then you observe it, and then you look at other people that don't have that and carry themselves in a different way, so you know how it looks like and the thought process, and ask questions, right? And then you take action. So a great example is this year, I really started, like my word of the year is pleasure and joy. Like that's really what I want to focus on this year. I don't know if that is something from childhood. I don't know if it's like the Soviet background. I'm sure it's a combination of different things. Also just my character, different things that affected me to really struggle with enjoying and bringing pleasure into my life and not feeling guilty having pleasure and not feeling the need to earn that pleasure. I really started thinking about it again 2 years ago. Last year, I put it on my vision board, started observing it, understanding what it means. Like, what do I refer to? Is it in situations with friends? Is it in small little things? Is it in an extra cup of coffee that I drink? Like, what is pleasure to me? And this year, I've realized that I am actually surrounded by a lot of people, especially ever since coming to Miami, because we have cultures here like the Hispanic culture, like Brazilians, people that in their culture, pleasure is like a human right, just like a basic human right that they exercise all the time. So I have the ability to watch the way these people do it because it doesn't come naturally to me. Like I have to learn. So just being in that environment, I'm like, oh, like the way they're singing and dancing, or taking a moment that's very mundane and making something so much more fun out of it. Just different kind of things that I'm picking up where I'm like, okay, now I can put it into action because I know how it looks. It requires you to be aware of it, and at some point, especially with validation and comparison, I think it also comes with age and experience. You really learn to value yourself, and you don't feel the need to measure up to other people's idea of success because you start building your own idea of success. And the validation aspect is the same thing. You really understand that it's an internal process because at some point in your life, you realize that what you're seeking from other people, it's actually what you seek within yourself. So you have to do it for yourself. And that is part of the fun. Good luck. But yeah, part of this whole like talking about our childhood traumas and the background that we come from, I know that I make a lot of videos about kind of like the Eastern Europeans and the way we are and the coldness and all these things. And it sounds like I'm making excuses or maybe like giving a reason why I'm the way I am. I don't. Again, this is victim mentality. I don't. If it doesn't serve me, I change it because I have the choice. The other day when I posted about being judgmental, I had someone that messaged me and they're like, oh, it's just a Virgo behavior. To me, I don't accept that anymore. That's an excuse. What is this, a Virgo? Okay, so it's a Virgo behavior, but it doesn't serve me. I'm going to change it. It doesn't make me live the life I want to live. I'm going to change it. Someone else said, oh, it's very common with Eastern Europeans. Great. I believe in nurture versus nature. That's what I believe in. I truly think that, yeah, you might be born a certain way, but if it doesn't fit you, you change it. Yeah, it's hard, it's painful, it's annoying, but change it. I really am taking stock of all the things that I am and all the thoughts that I think. And I'm like, yeah, this will take me further. This is holding me back. This is something I don't want to do anymore. And that's it. It's like, again, a DIY project. And I am getting excited about the kind of power I gain from it as Valeria. That was a good one. I feel like this is, I'm always worried about this Q&A because I'm like, this is going to be all over the place. But this is going to it has a theme here, which I love. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Don't miss my newest episode right here. And if you're listening to the podcast on Apple or Spotify, please go and leave a review with your biggest takeaway. I love reading your thoughts. They inspire me. So if you have any suggestions for guests or topics, you can leave them in the comment section. And always, always remember, you are not alone.